Yes.
Did you look at Georgia View this morning? Because all of my stuff finally updated.
Okay, we'll talk about that after class. Okay, so before we get started with today's material, I do just want to have a quick word with everybody. As most of you are no doubt aware, right, midterm is creeping up on us. And from some of you, I am getting little or no work. This is a problem, right? If you're not turning in assignments, I can't give you points on those assignments. I can only grade assignments that you actually turn in, right? An unfinished assignment, an uncompleted assignment is basically a 0. So there are a few of you whose grade at this point in the semester is essentially a 0. Right, now this was exactly the sort of thing I was trying to avoid by setting strict limits on when things could be turned in, right? Because I'm frankly sick of this shit, all right? I'm tired of people not turning in assignments or turning them in weeks late and thinking that that's somehow acceptable or okay. It is not. I know that people have other things going on in their lives. I have other things going on in my life too, okay? I work 60 to 70 hours a week. I don't have time to go chasing your ass because you didn't turn something in. And I'm frankly tired of it. If you've been turning in work, right, you are at least getting some points for everything you turn in, provided that it's not plagiarized. If you have some problem outside of class that is preventing you from turning in work, right, I'm sorry, like, that's on you to resolve. It's not on me, right? We have the syllabus from the beginning of the semester. I have already been fairly accommodating about some due dates. Get your shit together and get it done, goddammit. Tired of this. Every goddamn semester. Do the goddamn work. A full 50% of your grade is made up of these small assignments, right? If you are not doing them, this means you are missing out on 50% of the possible points. You cannot pass the class by just doing the big assignments. You have to take the little shit seriously too. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Get it together. If you have some mitigating circumstances which you need to discuss with me, come talk to me, right? But don't just not show up and don't just not turn things in. What that tells me is that you don't care enough to actually get this done. All right, so for next time, what we're going to be doing is working on the big paper in class. We're going to be working on paper 1 in class. So you will be permitted to have a laptop here to work with. You will be permitted, right, to go and look up the articles that you want to use as evidence. And as you are setting up your argument, right, remember, does everybody remember what the question you're supposed to be trying to answer is in the big paper? More specifically, right? Pardon?
Is real?
That's the question that our first set of philosophers tried to answer, right? Right. So right there, like in big bold print on the assignment sheet, right? The question is, to what extent can human action make any difference in the world, right? To what extent does what we do actually matter? To what extent does what we do actually have any effect on the world around us? And so you'll probably want to think about this in terms of the questions that each set of philosophers we've looked at have asked, right? The first set of philosophers were focused on what exists, right? The second set were focused on how I can describe what exists, right? How is my language and thought process related to what exists, right? The third, we're asking the question, am I free to make my own choices? For the fourth, what does it mean to be good, right? What actions are desirable? And for the fifth, the ones we're talking about today, right? Does life have any inherent purpose? Right? Does human life serve any purpose? And if you can find a way to relate these 5 questions to the bigger question that the assignment asks, this will help you come up with an argument, right? Now remember, this is a to what extent question. It's not an absolute either or, right? I'm expecting that most of you, using the philosophers that we've discussed, will come to some position in between 2 extremes, right? And remember, too, that I'm not necessarily asking you what you think. I am asking you what you think you can prove based on the evidence you have in front of you, right? You have to use the essays we've been reading as sources, right? Now, you don't have to use your assigned philosophers necessarily. You can use other philosophers if you think they're better for making the point you're trying to make, right? But you must use at least 5. And you probably want to try to use one from each of these subsets, right? Does anybody have any questions?
When's the actual paper due?
The actual paper is due, I don't have it off the top of my head. Hold on, let me check. Sometime next week, I think. So we're working on it on class next time, and okay, yeah, it's going to be. So you're going to have to get the draft to me by March 1st.
Like a rough draft, and then final assessment like a week
Yeah,
later.
and then the final will be due on March 8th.
Also, does this count as our midterm, or is this like a paper and then we're doing like another thing? For
This
midterm?
is a composition class. We don't do exams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've always thought that in a writing class, exams are basically pointless.
Alright.
So, yeah, so we just do short paper, several short papers and then 2 longer papers. That's how the class works. Any other questions about this assignment? All right, so what we'll do then, right, remember to bring materials to work with to class next time. We'll do peer review next week, right? So you'll have a chance to sit together and talk over each other's papers. And then, yeah, the draft will be due on March 1st. Okay. Now, as far as what you are doing today is concerned, right? The philosophers you're looking at for today are concerned with this final question here, right? Does human life serve any purpose? So that's the big overarching question, right? Yes or no, does human life have a purpose? But the subsidiary questions you're going to want to consider are, first, right, is it possible for human beings to be happy with or without purpose? If life has no purpose, what are the implications for us? If life does have a purpose, where does it come from? Does it come from within us or from something outside of us? All right, so those of you who were working on Seneca, you're going to be over here on this side of the room. If you were assigned Montaigne, over here. If you were assigned Schopenhauer, over here. And if you were assigned Camus, over here. And as per usual, you've got 20 minutes to get something together.